Abby Johnson is with us today, again, not just to tell you what you already know, but to tell you some stuff that only people like she really knows about. The damage that abortion does on all sorts of people, far beyond just the loss of the lives of unborn children, which is bad enough. Our Divine Mercy Apostolate stretches out even to them. No, not even to them, but especially to them, because as our Lord said, because they're most in need of His mercy. Abby Johnson.
Thank you. I think I can use this one. I can't use that one. Well, now you have my hand all over it during the recording. So, okay. All right. Well, this is hard for me because I'm a mover and a walker during my talk. So, okay. I don't know. That's not really fair to have a bunch of seminarians come up before you give your talk. So, thanks, Ed. All right. Well, I'm from Texas, so howdy. Howdy. That's pretty good for a bunch of New Yorkers. And New Jersey, that's right. Oh, somebody's sorry. All right, well, I am glad to be here with you today and excited to be here. And I'm going to talk about things that a lot of you already know about Planned Parenthood, but hopefully I will kind of shine a light on some things that maybe you don't know. And I wanted to start off by giving you some quotes, reading some quotes to you by different people that have been within the organization of Planned Parenthood. Everybody knows who Margaret Sanger is? Yes? All right, for some of you that don't, Margaret Sanger is the founder of Planned Parenthood. First Planned Parenthood clinic opened in New York in 1916. It was called the Birth Control League, later to become Planned Parenthood and eventually Planned Parenthood Federation of America. And every year, Planned Parenthood Federation of America gives out their highest honor, their biggest award, in her name, the Margaret Sanger Circle Award. And I'm going to read some quotes from her so that you can kind of see who Planned Parenthood is honoring every year. Margaret Sanger said, "The most successful education approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We do not want word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members." Currently, 76% of Planned Parenthood clinics are built in what is considered a super minority neighborhood, where there are at least 85% minority or higher in that neighborhood. 76% are built in minority neighborhoods. Currently, 50% of African American pregnancies end in abortion. 1 out of every 2 women that gets pregnant takes the life of her child through abortion in the African American population. For the first time in the history of the United States, the African American population is at a state of decline because of abortion. Abortion is the leading cause of death in the African American population. You can take any other cause of death, natural disaster, cancer, heart disease, AIDS, anything on the planet, and you can roll those all together, add all of those things up, and abortion still has a higher death tally. She also said, "Our failure to segregate morons who are increasing and multiplying demonstrates our foolhardy and extravagant sentimentalism." Currently in the United States, over 90% of children diagnosed with Down syndrome are aborted in the womb. 90%. She also said the most merciful thing that the large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. About a year and a half ago, there was a case in Canada. Canada has similar laws. to us in the United States. If you don't know this, abortion is legal through all 9 months of pregnancy in the United States. Roe v. Wade did guarantee that. There are states that are aborting children up to 36 weeks in our country. And Canada has similar laws. The difference between the Canadian government and our government is that currently the Canadian government is paying up to $17,000 to abort a child with taxpayer money. We are not at that point yet. But anyway, a few years ago, about a year and a half ago in Canada, there was a story where a woman, she killed her infant child. Her child was only a couple weeks old. And I don't remember how, I think maybe she suffocated her child or something like that. And she went and stood in front of a judge, and the judge was going to give her her sentence and her conviction. And the judge looked at her and said, "I don't really know how to convict you of a crime or how I can possibly sentence you when if you would have just had an abortion 2 weeks before, it would have been legal." And that woman did not get sentenced for a crime. But that judge is absolutely right. The infant soul is there at conception. So what is the difference between killing a 12-week-old child or a 32-week-old child and killing a child after it's been born? In 1969, there was a memo that was put out. It was called the Yaffe Memo. And it was written by a man named Frederick Yaffe. He was the vice president of Planned Parenthood at the time in 1969. And the government had asked him to write a memo, give them some suggestions on how to control overpopulation in the United States. So he did. He wrote a memo on behalf of himself and Planned Parenthood. And you can look it up online if you Google it. You'll probably have to search a little bit because Planned Parenthood has tried very desperately to hide the contents of this memo. But some of the things that are on some of the suggestions that were put forward by Frederick Yaffe were compulsory sterilization for women and compulsory contraception, no children in a household, no more than 2 children in a household. After that, there would be forced abortions. One of his suggestions was to put fertility agents in our water to control women's reproduction. And if you don't already know this, we are already living in that day and age because of contraception in our water supply. They wanted to encourage homosexuality among young children. No more maternity benefits for women that are pregnant. And I didn't just eat too much lunch. I do have a kid in here. And thank you. Catholics always like that more than anybody else. They're like, yeah, breeding. But I would like to tell you that I have private insurance because I am self-employed. And I have private insurance, and I wanted to let everyone know that if you have private insurance, if you try to get private insurance right now in this country, you will not be allowed to have maternity benefits. Maternity benefits are only given to women who are in group health plans. Guys, this is real. The things that were written in this Yaffe memo in 1969, they are coming to fruition right in front of our faces, right in front of our eyes. The things that Margaret Sanger wanted and the things that she strived for and the goals that she set for Planned Parenthood back in 1916 and 1939, they're happening right now. We don't have to wait. We don't have to say, well, maybe one day that'll happen. The one day is today. I think the best quote that Planned Parenthood ever put out was in 1963. It was in a pamphlet that they gave out to women that were coming in to their clinics. And the quote says, "An abortion kills the life of the baby after it has begun. It is dangerous to your health. It may make you sterile so that when you want a child, you cannot have it." That was in 1963. In 1984, Planned Parenthood had performed just over 86,000 abortions. In their last report in 2010, they performed over 330,000. What changed? What changed from 1963 to right now? They legalized abortion, right? And with the legalization of abortion came what for Planned Parenthood? Money. Money. In August of 2009, I sat in a budget meeting with my supervisor, and I remember looking at the budget. Every Planned Parenthood has two separate budgets. One is for family planning, and one is for abortion. And every month we had a quota in our budget, a certain number of women that we had to see for family planning, and a certain number of women that we had to perform abortions on. And if that quota is not met, people start getting fired. And so you do whatever you can in the abortion industry to sell abortions to vulnerable women. And that's what we did. We were salespeople. We were not giving them options. We didn't care about options. The only option we cared about was the one that was going to make us money, and that one was abortion. So I sat in this budget meeting, and I remember thinking that surely there was something wrong with this budget. Okay, it's hot in here, right? Woo, okay. It's about to get hotter. So anyway, I remember looking at the budget, and I remember saying there must be something wrong with this budget, because the amount of women that they want me to see in our family planning clinic from one year to the next, it's pretty much stayed the same. But the amount of women that they want me to perform abortions on had doubled. They wanted me to perform twice as many abortions every month on these women as I did the year before, and I thought that must be a mistake. Because I worked in Planned Parenthood media, and I would say publicly, our goal at Planned Parenthood is to reduce the number of abortions, not to increase them. We don't want women to have to make this choice. I mean, after all, it's only 3%, right? And so I thought, this can't be right. This must be a mistake. They must have meant to increase our family planning budget, right? So that we can reduce abortion by giving contraception to the masses. And so I said this out loud to my supervisor, and she looked back at me and she said, "Abby, you need to get your priorities straight. Abortion needs to be your priority because that's where the money is." You see, they had to change their tune. In 1963, they had it right. That abortion takes the life of the child, because they didn't have any reason to lie. They weren't making money off of abortion. Abortion was not legal. But when they started making money, when they saw what a cash cow the abortion business could be, and that it could really be an industry, they had to start making justifications. They had to start lying. I remember being at a dinner. Some of you have probably heard me tell the story, but I remember being at a dinner in April of 2009. I was at Planned Parenthood Federation of America's annual dinner. I'd been there before, but I had always sat at, table 1035, way in the back. But this time I got to sit at table number 1. I got to sit at the VIP table. And the reason for that was because I was rewarded. I had been rewarded that year for being Planned Parenthood's Employee of the Year. I know, you're all very proud of me. sitting up there, and it wasn't just that I was at table number 1, but it was that I was getting to sit with Hillary Clinton. That was my reward. I mean, I got money too, but that didn't matter because I made gobs of money when I worked in the abortion industry. So I didn't really care about the money, but getting to sit next to Hillary Clinton, that was like, whoa, big for me. Because at the time, she was my role model. She was my idol. I thought there was nobody better than Hillary Clinton. And so I remember, surprisingly enough, she was not there to see me. She was there because she was receiving an award, that same high-honored award, the Margaret Sanger Circle Award. And I remember watching her get up on stage, and we had such an intimate dinner, me, Hillary, and 10 Secret Servicemen. And I remember sitting there and just loving this moment, just thinking, oh my gosh, it's never going to get better than this. My time with Planned Parenthood is never going to get any better. Right here. This is it. This is my peak. And I remember watching her get up, and she got up on this beautiful stage in front of this beautiful podium, and she was speaking, and, I don't remember anything she said, but I remember looking at her and thinking, oh my gosh, one day, I want to be just like that. I want to be just like her, but with better hair. And I want to be there. I want to be up in front of thousands of people, and I want to be up inspiring people to stand up for reproductive rights. That's who I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to be. And just a few months later, in October of that same year, I was walking out of my Planned Parenthood clinic. When God wants to move in your life, He moves very quickly. There were several things that happened. One was that budget meeting. One was finding out that we were building the largest abortion clinic in the Western Hemisphere. My affiliate was in Houston, 78,000 square foot facility, 7 stories tall. The 3rd floor is dedicated to performing late-term abortions up to 25 weeks. And I remembered I had always told people, I will never work at a facility that performs late-term abortions, because that was my line in the sand. Most people who support abortion they draw the line somewhere. And for most of them, it is viability. That's when they draw their line. That's where they draw their line. And that's where it was for me. I thought, okay, well, after a baby is viable, if you abort that baby, then it's murder. But anytime before that, it's fine. So one time, I always thought viability was at 24 weeks. That's what I'd always heard. But then one time I was reading a very scientific journal called People Magazine. And I read a story about a little child named Lily that had been born at 21 weeks. And she survived, and everything was fine. She's a perfectly healthy, beautiful little girl. And I thought, oh, now I have to change my line. Right? I've got to move my line up. So now all of a sudden it was 21 weeks. That was viability. And so here I am. I'm being forced to look at these high values I had. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I just moved my line to 21 weeks. And now I'm finding out that we're going to be opening this center that performs abortions up to 25 weeks. What am I going to do? But after 8 years of justifying my sin, after 8 years of justifying deceit, I was pretty much a professional. I was pretty much a professional at looking at a bad situation and going, well, but there's probably a reason, and I'll just stick it out and see what happens. And I gotta tell you, I don't remember that budget meeting I was telling you about. I don't remember how I justified that, but I did. And I don't remember how I justified working at an affiliate that I would eventually become the COO of that performed late-term abortions. I don't remember how I did that, but I did. I don't remember how I justified our sex ed programs showing kindergartners different sexual positions with stuffed animals. But somehow I did. Somehow I continued to justify everything that I knew was wrong. But in September of 2009, I was put in a situation that I could no longer justify. We had a visiting physician come in from out of town, and he came in. I remember talking to him before he started working for us, and he was telling me that he performed abortions a little differently at his own clinic. He had a private practice. Him and his wife are both abortionists. They actually live in the abortion clinic where they work. They're an odd couple. But he had been doing abortions for a very long time. He came very highly recommended, and so he was explaining to me that when he performed abortions, he actually liked to see what he was doing during the surgery. I mean, I can't believe that, right? A doctor would actually want to see what they're doing. Anybody in here, would you go to, let's say everybody in here has had dental work done before, right? Cleaning or something, I hope. Let's say you went into your dentist and he walked in and he was blindfolded and he goes, "Hey, look, I've been doing this a long time, getting kind of bored. I thought I'd jazz it up. So I'm going to do your filling blindfolded." Everybody okay with that? Of course not, right? I might be, because I always get the gas. You know, so I'd be like, all right, whatever. But of course not, right? We would never let someone operate on us if they can't see what they're doing. But guess what? That's exactly how abortions are performed. It's a blind procedure. They take an instrument called a cannula. It's a rigid plastic instrument. It's hooked up to the suction. And they insert that into the woman's uterus and they just poke around until they think they have enough tissue and blood in the glass jar. They can't see what they're doing. And the scariest part of that is that abortion is the most common surgical procedure performed every day in this country. It's just a blind procedure. And so when this doctor was describing to me that he actually wants to see what he's doing during the abortion, I thought, well, that makes sense, and that seems a lot safer for the woman. I met a woman one time who had had an abortion. She was 21. She knew that there had been a problem during her abortion, but they didn't exactly tell her what the problem was. And so a few weeks later, she went to the hospital. She had spiked a high fever. She was in all this pain. She didn't know what was going on. She went to the hospital, and the doctor told her that her uterus had been perforated during the abortion procedure, which is not terribly uncommon. But the bad part was that all of her reproductive organs had developed gangrene. And she had to have a hysterectomy at age 21. Now, don't get me wrong, we did use ultrasounds at our abortion clinic. But we only used them at the very beginning. We did not use them during the entire procedure. The only reason that we used ultrasound at all was to verify exactly how far along the woman was in her pregnancy so that we knew how much to charge her for her abortion. That's it. Now, let's say that we thought a woman was 9 weeks and 4 days pregnant when she called in and made her appointment. And we made her an appointment and we told her it's going to be $450. And then we get her back to the exam room. Now, the goal in the abortion industry is to do 3 things at one time: ultrasound, sedation, abortion, all within 5 minutes. That's the goal. And so, let's say we get her back to the exam room. We're doing an ultrasound and we find out that she's actually 10 weeks and 3 days pregnant. Well, now there's going to be a price difference there. Not for any reason, just because they can charge more, so they do. And now she's going to owe us $550 instead of $450. There's a $100 difference there. And so somebody is tasked, usually the last person hired, somebody is tasked to go into the exam room while she's laying on her back in the most vulnerable position a woman ever is at the doctor's office, and go up to her and say, "Now, you're going to owe us $100 extra. So how would you like to pay that? Is it in your wallet? I'll grab it for you. Don't get up." I'm serious. And then whoever that was would dig around in her wallet to get that extra $100. And I never saw a woman not come up with $100. It didn't matter if she had to put $10 on 10 different credit cards. She was at the finish line, and she was getting that abortion. And so I was actually pretty excited about getting to witness an abortion on an ultrasound. I thought, well, this is going to be a great learning experience for me. And if I'm going to be running this place in a few years, I need to know about all the different types of procedures that are out there and that are available. And so the day came, the time came. I was in there, and my job during the ultrasound was to hold, or during the abortion was to hold the ultrasound probe on the woman's abdomen. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not an ultrasound technician. My education, I'm a therapist by education. So if you're having a bad day, we can chat. But if you need an ultrasound, I'm probably not your gal. But at Planned Parenthood, they don't care. It doesn't matter. In the abortion industry, you just have to be willing to do the ultrasound, and you have to go through a 2-hour in-house training class, and then they set you loose with the transvaginal ultrasound probe. And so my job, I was doing the ultrasound. We figured out that the woman was 13 weeks pregnant. Now, at 13 weeks, are there arms and legs?
Yes.
Fingers and toes?
Yes.
Brainwaves?
Yes.
Heartbeat?
Yes.
Internal organs?
Yes.
It's all there, guys. It's all there. Outside of the womb, the baby's about this big, and we can even tell if it's a boy or a girl. And I knew that. I'd seen the graphic signs, but I knew what it looked like because one of my jobs in the abortion industry was to be the POC technician. Anybody know what POC is? That's right, products of conception. What's that? It's the baby, right? But you can't say baby in an abortion clinic. So we called it POC or POC. And it's somebody's job inside every abortion clinic across the country to be the POC technician. And that job is dumping out all the contents that are suctioned out of the womb. And you have to reassemble the baby. You have to piece the baby back together. Now, why do you do that? Well, because if a leg or the head or an arm or something is left in the womb, that woman can develop a very serious infection that could be fatal. And so I did that. I was a POC technician. I knew what abortion looked like. I knew the aftermath of abortion, and it didn't bother me. I had seen the graphic signs. I didn't care about the graphic signs. I saw it in real life. Actually enjoyed that part of my job. And so I didn't think I was going to see anything incredibly different watching this abortion, but I remember sitting there and looking at the screen, and I kind of got a pit in my stomach. And I thought, what is this going to look like? What am I going to see? But I quickly squashed that thought because I knew that whatever it was, whatever I saw, that fetus was not going to feel any pain. Now, how did I know that? Well, because Planned Parenthood sent me a memo on it. All the abortion counselors got a memo, and it was called Answers to Tough Questions. And the number one question on that list, the number one question I was asked by women that were having abortions was, will my baby feel this? They wanted to know, will my baby feel this? And Planned Parenthood knew that the answer to that question, it was vital. It was pivotal because there was no way I could look at a woman and go, well, yes, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be torture for your child. Now let's get you all ready in exam room number 1. Right? That'd be inhumane. That wouldn't happen. And so they knew they had to have a really, really good answer for that question. The answer to that question was no, the fetus has no sensory development until 28 weeks. Now, do you believe that? No, I did. And I should have known better. I'm a mom. This is my second baby. I knew better, right? I mean, I'm 25 weeks pregnant. If I poke my kid, he pokes me back. Okay? Because he can feel what's taking place to him inside his home. Inside my womb. I should have known better. And I guess I did know better, but I had to believe the lie. Because the truth is too risky. And so I remember looking up there and reciting that scripted answer over and over and over again in my head, and I saw the cannula going up to the side of the child, and I saw that child jump. And I saw that 13-week-old little baby boy begin to flail his arms and legs. And he was trying to run from the instrument that was threatening his life. And he was trying to go somewhere, but there's just nowhere to go because in a mother's womb, the space is just the right size for that baby. Eventually, though, he did move his way up all the way to the top of his mom's uterus. He was backed up against her womb. And the doctor had to reposition the cannula, and he asked the technician to turn on the suction, and he said, "Beam me up, Scotty." And the technician turned on the suction, and I remember seeing a child becoming dismembered in his mother's womb. I remember seeing that, and I think people think that's the worst part. Seeing that child become dismembered. I think they think that's the worst part, but that's not the worst part. Because we can all agree that abortion is graphic. Yes? We all know that abortion is a bloody procedure. Yes? And I knew that too because, remember, I pieced those babies back together. That wasn't the worst part. The worst part was standing there and knowing that I had witnessed the death of a child right in front of my face, and I did nothing to stop it. Not a thing. And it had happened thousands and thousands of times under my watch. And I had done nothing. I'm a mom. What kind of mom watches a child die and doesn't do something to protect that child? Me. I was that kind of mom. And that woman, she was laying there on that table. She was sedated. She had no idea that her son, her little boy, was in desperate need of her protection that day. Somebody needed to protect that baby, and it hadn't been any of us. And you know what, guys? We're almost in our 40th year of legalized abortion in this country. And I can't tell you exactly why abortion is still legal. I can't tell you why over 1 million babies die every year in this country because of abortion. I can't tell you why. But I think it has a whole lot to do with apathy. And particularly apathy from the Christian church. I had a priest one time ask me, "Well, Abby, how often do you think we should talk about abortion in the church?" And I looked at him and I said, "Well, Father, I don't know. But I remember women laying on the exam table during their abortion, holding rosary beads in their hands. Now you tell me how often we need to talk about abortion in the church." I don't know what you think about any other issues that are out there. I don't know what you think about the Kardashians or taxes, not Texas, because I know you all love Texas. Taxes or the economy or homosexuality. I don't know what you think about any of those things, and to be quite honest, I don't care. Because without the right to life, none of those things matter. We like to get hyped up about social justice. We talk about social justice all the time, but where does social justice begin? happening to marriages out there in this country? I don't either. But you know what? It all stems back to abortion. Actually, I think it all stems back to contraception, but that's a different talk. Okay. You don't like what's happening to our kids? You don't like that our kids are promiscuous starting at age 11. You don't like that we're aborting children on girls as young as 11 years old. You know where that stems back to? It stems back to abortion in the family. I mean, guys, this is not just a problem. This is not just something, oh yeah, well, yeah, it's just another problem in a list of many. This is the problem. This is the issue. And if we were to walk out of here today after this conference and we're walking out to our cars feeling all energized and pumped up and we see a little 2-year-old girl being beaten to death in the parking lot, what would we do? We would stop him, right? Would we? Or would we just look at the lifeless body of this child and go, "Ooh, that was shocking. I'm going to go home and pray about it." I bet 100% of the people in here would do something to intervene for the life of that child. But you know what? 4,000 babies die every day in this country in much more graphic and gruesome ways than that. Are we intervening? I mean, why? Because we don't see it? Because we don't see that child actually struggling for his life? Because we don't see the humanity of that child? We only see the death of the child? I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to take. But I know that for us, as people of faith, we can no longer just sit at home and hope that our prayers are enough. And my friend who's with me, she told me today, she said, you know what? Prayer calls us to action. And there is no better place, there is no better movement to be active in than this movement right here. And you know what? We are living, I had to kind of stop watching Fox News for a while because every commercial break, there were 2 commercials on for the ASPCA, the animal people, right? And they're terrible. I mean, the commercial is sad. And it's like this little shaking chihuahua, right? And it's like, poor Tilly. Forced to breed in captivity her whole life, right? And don't get me wrong, I like animals. In fact, my husband has banned me from going to the animal shelter because every time I go, I'll come back with an animal. So, don't get me wrong, I love animals. But you know we live in a messed up world when we care more about animals in shelters than we do our own children. And you know what? This is the time. Not tomorrow, not next week. Don't put it off anymore. There are babies dying today. There will be babies dying tomorrow. Sundays aren't exempt from the abortion industry. There are babies dying every single day of the week, 4,000 a day. And if we don't go out there and do something about it, then we have no one else to blame but ourselves. It is up to us to end this tragedy, to end this Holocaust. It really is a Holocaust. It is up to us. And we will only end this when everybody comes together. All people of faith, Catholics, Baptists, Lutheran, I don't care what religion you are, it will take all of us in all walks of life coming together to end this tragedy. And I don't want you to feel like you're going out of here with all this terrible news. Or I want to give you some good news to end this on. 3 months ago, I started a ministry and then there were none. And it's to proactively reach out to clinic workers that are still inside the abortion industry. In the past 3 months, we've had 15 workers leave the abortion industry, have conversions on the issue of abortion, and have conversions to Christ. It's funny, when we were budgeting for this organization, we thought it would be a long shot to get 10 in a year, but we've had 15 in 3 months. And that shouldn't surprise us. It shouldn't surprise us that people are looking at evil in the face, turning away from that evil, and turning to the light of Christ. We should expect that as people of faith. Amen? We're in the middle of a 40 Days for Life campaign. And we're almost to the end here. But we know that there have been over 600 babies that we know of that have been saved in the past 30 days. Planned Parenthood's last report in 2010, they came out with their abortion numbers. For the first time in 10 years, we actually see a decline in the number of abortions that they perform. And myself, as well as two other people, there's currently 3 separate cases against Planned Parenthood on Medicaid fraud. I just filed the largest Medicaid fraud lawsuit ever to be put out against Planned Parenthood, and we are hoping that at minimum, if we win this case, they will be fined, just my affiliate, will be fined about $600 million. Guys, we are winning this fight, and we are guaranteed to win. People look at me and they go, oh, how are we ever going to win? I mean, they've got Bill Gates, they have Bill Clinton, they have all these stacks of bills. Well,